Hey everyone, this is Mike, and today we're taking a look at the range job changes coming in Endwalker, starting off with a global change, which is that your rate mitigation is now going to be on 90 seconds. That means your Tactician, Troubadour, and Shield Samba. However, these are all level 88 traits, so it won't have an effect on the old ultimates in case you were wondering about that. So that's a change that all three of the jobs got. Let's now go into more job-specific stuff, beginning with Machinist. Well, it's honestly not a whole lot to say here. First thing I want to mention is, from what I've heard, combos now take 30 seconds to break, which I believe is going to be the case for all of the jobs in the game. But this is mainly going to be great for Machinist because of Hypercharge. Now, of course, this would have been amazing for the old inner release and Delirium, for Warrior and Dark Knight if those would still exist, but because those got changed, it's not that impactful for those jobs anymore, and even then a good player would be able to play around the timing. However, the reason why this is good for Machinist is because both Drill and Air Anchor exist. Previously, you couldn't use both Drill, Air Anchor and a Hypercharge mid-combo because it meant you were dropping said combo. You could do one or the other plus a Hypercharge, but not both. In Endwalker, we're also getting a new Air Anchor-like skill, so we'll have 3 skills that are on their own cooldown that we'll have to manage like that. So the added time before a combo breaks is going to be really useful here. So, all skills that are getting an upgrade. Well, first off we have Reassemble, which is getting a second charge. This will be really nice for your opener, but outside of that, the one extra usage won't really change too much unless you go into a very long downtime where you're able to get that second charge back. The Automaton Queen is also getting a new skill that she will use right before she leaves the field, but again, you won't really feel that as that happens automatically. I guess the only time where you need to be mindful of this is when you want to activate it early with Overdrive because a boss will be phasing away or something, because I do believe that when you use Overdrive, she'll do both Pile Bunker and the new Crown Collider, but the wording on the tooltips can be a little bit confusing, and I also couldn't find any gameplay of this, so we'll just have to wait and see, but I still think that if you use Overdrive, she'll do both skills before vanishing. Your AoE skill, Spreadshot, has also received an upgraded version, which deals more damage, and it also generates more heat gauge, so that's quite nice. And then we have our new Chainsaw ability, which works like Drill and Air Anchor. It has a 60-second recast timer, deals damage in a line in front of you, and it also grants 20 battery gauge. The potency in the Mediator build was also the same as Drill and Air Anchor, so this could be another skill for you to use that Reassemble on, especially in AoE scenarios. And that is it for Machinist, really. Not a lot of changes that will actually impact the flow of the job, as the new Chainsaw ability is pretty much the only thing that actually changes something in your rotation, but Machinist already flowed really well in Shadowbringers, so I can see why they're hesitant about making too many changes, as it could easily interrupt this flow that we have going on right now. Overall, I wouldn't have minded some more new stuff being added, but to me the feel of a job is really important, and because the feel is already really good right now and they didn't change much, that feel will still be right. Moving on to Dancer. This one did get quite a few changes. So first off, your procs are now going to be shared between both your single target and your AoE skills, meaning that when you use Flourish, you'll now only be able to use 2 procs and not all 4. Although that does mean that you won't have to move into melee range anymore during your Flourish windows if we're talking about a boss fight scenario. To make up for this, Flourish now also grants you access to Fan Dance 4, which is a new skill that deals AoE damage in a cone in front of you. Speaking of procs, each time you use one, you'll now also be granted 10 Esprit Gauge to mitigate some of the RNG related to generating Esprit Gauge for you. After you do a technical finish, you'll also get access to a new skill, Tilana, which will deal AoE damage and then also grant all the bonuses that you would normally get from a standard finish. I guess this could be nice for when you do a technical first opener, because you'll get the standard step buffs faster than if you have to wait those few extra seconds for you to finish dancing. But outside of that, I don't really see this affecting your rotation all that much. Devilment also got a new effect added to it, which allows you to use Starfall Dance, which is a new GCD that deals damage in a line in front of you. And then we also have Improvisation. This no longer grants you Esprit Gauge, but will instead provide a healing over time effect to everyone that is inside of your dancing radius. You'll also be generating stacks of Rising Rhythm every 3 seconds for a maximum of 4 stacks. And you can spend these stacks on Improvised Finish that will apply a shield that gets stronger the more stacks that you have. So this is now pretty much a downtime ability. You use Improv right as the boss disappears, and then right before the strong AoE comes out, you can use the finish to grant grant your party a shield. I guess you could still technically flash the skill like you can now to quickly heal your party a little bit, but I doubt that it's worth potentially losing an auto attack for. The finish can also only be used while you're channeling the improv itself. So it's some interesting changes that will change the feel of the job a little bit, but overall Dancer will still feel very much so like the Dancer that we know right now. And that brings us to Bard. Overall, the core rotation of Bard remains the same, but the timers on a lot of skills have been adjusted to make it fit the 1 to 2 minute rotation idea that Square Enix is aiming for in Endwalker. So first of all of our songs are now 45 seconds long on a 2-minute recast timer. So you'll probably end up singing a 45, 45 and 30 second rotation, kind of like we have the 30-30-20 right now. Song's effects are still all the same, but you will also be granted a coda which will interact with your new skill Radiant Finale. This is basically the Bard's version of the old Divination, as it grants a damage buff to the party depending on how many coda stacks you have. 2% for 1, 4% for 2 stacks, and then 5% for 3 stacks. The only kicker here is that the ability is on a 90-second recast timer, which kinda goes against the whole 2-minute rotation thing, but the difference between a fully stacked finale and a 2-stack one is only 1%, so maybe in some cases it could be worth just using on cooldown and then only losing 1% and getting an extra usage out of it, or maybe it might be better just holding on to it and using it alongside the other 2-minute raid buffs. Only time will tell. So what other timers got changed? Well, both Barrage and Battle Voice are now 2 minutes. To make up for this, Battle Voice is shorter in duration now though. And Raging Strikes is now also 60 seconds, so you'll use Raging Strikes during both Wanderer's Minuet and Mage's Ballad. Your dots have also been made 45 seconds to line up with your songs. Now, I personally don't really think this was needed because Iron Jaws exists, but it's a change nevertheless. We then have 2 more changing to existing skills. Bloodletter and Rain of Death now hold 2 charges, which will be great for not overcapping as much during your Mage's Ballad window, because that has been a major complaint for a very long time now. So while this doesn't fix it completely, as it's possible to get 2 procs to happen simultaneously, it will at least feel a whole lot better. And then just like Machinist, our Quick Knock AoE skill has also gotten an upgraded version, but this one only gets a damage bonus added to it, nothing like a higher chance to reset Rain of Death or anything like that. And then last but not least, we have a new skill called Blast Arrow. This is kind of a combo action of Apex Arrow. When you use Apex, when it's at 80 gauge or higher, you'll get a 30-second buff that allows you to use Blast Arrow. So this is pretty lenient. In case your Apex Arrow is ready a little bit before a raid buff window comes out, you can still save the Blast Arrow for that. So again, just like Machinist, not a huge amount of changes, but the longer song timings and the shorter Raging Strikes will at least change the feel of the job a little bit. But if you like the current Bard, then you'll probably still end up liking the new one as well. And that does it for the range changes coming in Endwalker. So I want to thank you for watching, I want to thank my Patreons for their support, and I'll see you in the next one.